What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a very cool standard deck that is centered around Xerneas BREAK that was designed by Grant Manley, who ran it in, I don't remember what tournament, but he used it to great effect. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, this is completely unrelated to this deck, but at the time that I'm recording this, my good friend and fellow token minority Danza just probably had one of the luckiest pulls in that I've actually legitimately ever heard of. So his friend got him a single, it was a single first edition base set booster pack for helping them with like some computer issues or something like that. But basically his friend just gave him that pack as a way of saying thank you. But it was a single first edition base set booster pack, which in itself is actually insanely rare and very expensive. So Danza, I mean, he doesn't know much about the TCG. I mean, he's admitted that readily. He was like, you know what? I could have just held on to the pack and sold it, made a little bit of money off of that. But he decided to open it up just because, I mean, okay, to be fair, which of us, if we were given a single booster pack from base set, would not open it up for sheer nostalgia's sake, if nothing else? And also, I mean, the chance of pulling that holographic Charizard is always something that's just kind of a what-if moment whenever you're opening up the booster pack. Well, lo and behold, frickin' Danza pulls a first edition Shadowless Charizard fresh from a base set booster pack. From a single booster pack, he pulls a first edition Shadowless Charizard. That's absolutely nuts. Like, I cannot believe that. That is a multi-$1,000 card that he just pulled from a booster pack that was given to him by a friend. I mean, that's crazy. Like, that is one of the most insane pulls I have ever heard of. I mean, I told him immediately, get that thing graded, because graded increases the value exponentially. And so, I mean, my question of the day is, what is the luckiest pull you guys have ever had? And tell me more about it. I mean, like, to be fair, I don't think many of us, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't people who can top that story, but I don't think many of us will be able to top pulling a first edition base set Shadowless Charizard that is in near mint condition, if not mint. And, man, I just can't believe that. But to make you guys feel a little bit better about your pull luck, my best pull probably online was when I first started, and within 2 packs of opening a set of, or I ordered like 50 Roaring Skies codes when I first started off in the TCG. And within 2 packs, I pulled a Full Art Shaman, which was absolutely insane at the time. I mean, I think that was the most valuable card in the game apart from Full Art, and I mean, at least that was the most valuable card in the standard format. So pulling that was pretty darn amazing, all things considered. And in real life, it was probably, so I didn't buy a whole lot of packs in real life. I was more of a just like, oh, I'll buy like 1 or 2 with my friends, just see what I can pull. The best pull I probably ever had in real life was pulling a Full Art Keldeo from Boundaries Crossed back when that Keldeo was like $70. I mean, it's no multiple $1,000 Charizard, but I mean, you guys know Keldeo is my absolutely favorite Pokemon. So if there was a single card that I could pull just for my sake and my sake alone, it would have been that Full Art Keldeo, which I still have to this day. So yeah, let me know what your guys' best / luckiest pull was, I mean, online or in real life, in the comment section down below. Love to hear your guys' stories. But anyway, on to the deck. Wow, it's been 4 minutes. I'm very sorry about that. Man, I can't believe Danza pulled a multi-$1,000 card. That's insane. But onto the deck, like I said, it is centered around Xerneas and Xerneas BREAK with the Life Stream attack. This attack does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So basically, the premise of this deck is very simple. Use Geomancy and Max Elixir to get a bunch of energy on board, and then attack for tons of damage with Life Stream. I mean, that's basically all there is to it. I mean, it's a very, very straightforward deck, but just because it's straightforward doesn't mean it is any less effective at doing what it does. I mean, this deck hits insanely hard, and from the testing that I've done, it does it incredibly consistently too, just because, I mean, Xerneas is your main attacker, but also is your main way of supporting the deck in terms of getting more energy out on the field. And then once you have a Xerneas powered up with 2 Fairy Energy, attaching DCEs just powers it up by 40 more damage. So, I mean, you don't have to play DCEs onto Xerneas. I mean, you can just spread your energy out just fine, and, I mean, really just preserve your attackers, preserve your damage, while still doing insane amounts of damage to your opponent. So it's very straightforward. I mean, this, as you can see, it's like it's barely onto the 3rd line of cards, but again, doesn't mean it's not effective. So let's start with the lines of Pokemon. As you can see, there's only 11. 1 Oranguru for draw support, I mean, just as a way of Pokemon draw support. 4-3 of Xerneas and Xerneas Break. Only 3 Xerneas Break because, as you can see, we are running a good amount of recursion, so we don't need that 4. Even though you can potentially go through 4 Xerneas in a game, 1 Xerneas is usually dedicated to just geomancying until it dies, get a bunch of energy on board, that type of thing. And then you can use your other 3 Xerneas Break to then just start plowing through your opponent, and if you need another one later in the game, you can always Super Rod or Rescue Stretcher in order to get that back. 1 Mewtwo for Buzzwole, because Buzzwole, if it does get big enough, it can potentially give this deck a really, really hard time. So Mewtwo is a way of attaching not only DCEs and being effective, but just energy in general, and giving us a better chance against things like Buzzwole and other things that are Psychic weak. Next up we have Lele because of Wonder Tag, but also Lele is a very good energy recipient, as well as Energy Drive does more for each energy attached to it, and I mean, yeah, that's just that straightforward of a Pokemon line. As for the items for Max Elixir, so that we can just accelerate energy as quickly as possible, name of the game, like I said, get a bunch of energy on board as fast as possible, and then hit as hard as possible. 2 Nest Ball for basic Pokemon like Oranguru and Xerneas, and to a lesser extent Mewtwo, but I mean, I guess Mewtwo can be brought out with Nest Ball anyway. So that's another potential target, just basically ways of getting more stuff on board so that you're not just geomancing, throwing in extra energy on something that doesn't need it. You have more opportunities to get energy onto the board, onto stuff that can use it. 1, 2 of Rescue Stretcher and Super Rod, and this is one of the heavier lines of recursion that I've seen, but I mean, Grant put it in there, I tried it out, and I definitely agree with it. I think I actually use a little bit lighter recursion. I think he had 3 Super Rods, if I remember correctly, but I decided just to go with, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I liked the 1-3. It did what it needed to do. I was able to recur when I needed to, but also I had other stuff for the situations that I would like. So I really like the 1-2, but definitely try out the 1-3 that Grant used. 4 Ultra Ball, the guaranteed get the mon we want when we want. 3 Fairy Gardens in order to have free retreat, because I mean this deck runs on Fairy Energy. And then as for the supporters, 2-4-4 of Sycamore N and Cynthia. This deck doesn't like discarding, but at the same time it's not the end of the world, and sometimes you just need those 7 cards, so that's why there's a couple Sycamore. 1 Brigette to get set up as quickly as possible, because Lele into Brigette, like I say in a lot of decks, is the ideal start. And then 3 Guzma just to be able to bring something out that we want to take out, but also switch, and we don't mind the switching because we have free retreat with Fairy Garden. 4 Choice Band, we want the max number of this so that we can boost the damage output of our Mons as much and as consistently as possible. 4 DCEs, absolute max, because like I said, this boosts an extra 40 damage from our Xerneas, and then 11 Fairy Energy to be able to, statistically speaking, hit Max Elixir when we play it. So yeah, that's the deck. I talked for way too long. Let's go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against the Foreverman 19 with a pure fighting deck. So, honestly, I'm expecting some sort of Buzzwole variant at the very least. I mean, I believe that's the most prevalent fighting type at the current time, and unfortunately my opponent is going to see exactly what my deck is about, because he sees the Xerneas Break and the Choice Bands as well as the DCEs. So, I mean, my opponent's going to get full knowledge of what my deck is designed around. I mean, I'm not going to be able to bluff like a Gardevoir style, unfortunately. But regardless, it still should be Still should be okay, I would think. Well, that's less okay. So I can start with an Oranguru, and I'll be able to get a Xerneas out. I'll be able to, I'll be able to get multiple Xerneas out, which should be pretty solid. It should be a very good start for me. And okay, so what I'm gonna do? Let's Ultra Ball. What do I want to get rid of? A Cynthia, obviously. And do I want to get rid of the Guzma, or do I want to use that next turn to get my Oranguru out of the active? So let's go ahead and Ultra Ball for the Lele. Make sure there's a Brigette first. Yeah, there is a Brigette. So let's go ahead, grab the Lele, play that down for the Brigette. That way I can get 3 Xerneas into play immediately, which would be very nice. That way I can get the energy on them. And then next turn I could try to go for the Fairy Garden, or I could just straight up go for the Guzma, the very safe play, and then start attaching energy. So let's go ahead and do that. And what I can always do is just Oranguru next turn, regardless of what I draw into. I mean, yeah, it will put me... I can Ultra Ball and Guzma my hand down to 0, which honestly isn't a huge problem at all, because I have the Oranguru. And my opponent is, honestly, I have no idea what he's running. I mean, there we see the Sandshrew, so it's a Sand Slash Palisand variant, I'm guessing, and he ends me, which is, not gonna lie, pretty amazing, because this gives me more chances to hit that Fairy Garden and the energy, because as long as I hit those, I will be just fine, and that's less ideal. So I get the energy, but I don't get the Fairy Garden, so what I can do... Sand attacks, that's fine. That's really not going to be that big of a deal. And you know what? I'm just gonna attach a DCE and then retreat my Oranguru out. I could try to go for the Fairy Garden, but yeah, I mean, I didn't draw into it anyway. So let's go ahead and retreat. I'm getting rid of a DCE, but I think the amount of energy that I will be able to get in play should be able to overcome the fact that I had to discard a DCE early. And I hit 1 Max Elixir. Do I hit another? Actually, yes, I do. Wow. So I hit both Max Elixirs this turn, despite the fact that I have 3 Fairy Energy in my hand. So I got pretty lucky off of that, and now I am able to Geomancy, and then turn 2, I already have 5 energy in play. That's honestly exactly what this deck is supposed to do. And then this next turn, what I can do is, if I don't draw into a Xerneas Break or a way to get a Xerneas Break, I can always just go for a Rainbow Spear. Yes, not ideal, but it's still an attack that I can go for that will allow me to take a prize. And against my opponent's deck, I'm seriously not seeing... I think that I will just want to take prizes as quickly as possible and then just keep attaching energy. So we do see the Wally. What's he going to evolve? He's actually just going to evolve the active into a Sand Slash. And yeah, Rainbow Spear, will that be able to knock it out? Yes, it will. And then what does Swift do? Okay, so it's just not damage. And what does Palisand do? This Pokemon takes... Okay, so it looks like my opponent's just running a random fighting deck. He slashes my Xerneas and... Ooh. Well, okay, what I could have done was attach to Xerneas and then Sycamore to try to get a Xerneas Break, because I honestly probably would have been able to draw into that one way or another, like with an Ultra Ball, or just drawing into the Xerneas Break. Or at the very least, if I didn't, then I could just Geomancy again. I could probably draw into my... or hopefully draw into my Super Rod to be able to put that stuff back, the energies back into my deck after I Sycamored them away, and then Geomancied again, just to be able to have an insane amount of energy on board, and then just run through them as soon as I got a Xerneas Break up. So really, regardless of what my opponent did right there, I had plays, and I was honestly set up at the point where I think I could have just started destroying him, and that's honestly exactly what this deck is designed to do, is just get a bunch of energy on board and then overwhelm your opponent. So, solid first game. Let's go ahead and try to find another one. Alrighty, we've got another one against Xylix with... Oh boy, this is a Garchomp deck, which honestly could work out... could actually work out well for us if I'm able to constantly stream Xerneases. Xerneases? I don't know. Constantly stream the Fairy Legendary Pokemon from Generation 6. If I'm constantly able to stream Xerneas Break, then there should be no problem with me being able to overwhelm him, as this deck is so much faster than Garchomp, and if I can just keep taking out the Gibbles, then, like I said, it shouldn't be much of a big deal at all. So that's honestly what I'm going to go for, and then what's also amazing about this deck is you don't lose a ton of energy just with one Pokemon. Like, if they knock out one Pokemon, you lose like 2 energy, which is honestly perfect. And unfortunately, off the mulligan and the top deck, I get nothing. So what I'm going to do, I'm playing the Choice Band just because that's one less card I have to draw into. And Choice Band really doesn't do a whole lot for me. And then I can also try to bait out the Field Blower early. And then, what I can do, because, like I said, Choice Band is going to do absolute jack this game, is just play all those down, potentially get another card with my Oranguru. And I mean, I got a Super Rod, which, I mean, I guess is technically what I wanted. I said I would like another card, so, I mean, can't complain about that. And quite frankly, with the fact that I wasn't able to bridge it turn 1, this is actually still turning out pretty nicely because I have a Xerneas, I have an Energy, and I have another Xerneas and an Oranguru on the bench, so I can evolve into Xerneas Break this next turn. I can Geomancy. I have realistic targets to Geomancy. I have enough targets to most effectively Geomancy, so it really is just a good position for me overall. And he's going to be able to jab with Riolu, does a whopping 10 damage to me. And okay, a top deck and energy that's really not going to do a whole lot for me. And so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and attach to the active, sorry, bump the table right there, and draw into more cards. And this is what I was hoping for. So there we go. I'm able to get a Fairy Garden down, a Xerneas. I'm able to Ultra Ball, get rid of the Fairy Energy and the Ultra Ball. And the other Ultra Ball to grab a Xerneas Break. Looks like one is prized. I'll be able to deal with that just fine. Play that onto the active. This way I can Max Elixir onto my Xerneas on the bench instead of not being able to because it's evolved. And now I'm going to Oranguru for 3 more cards, see if I can get something good, and well, that definitely counts as something good, so I'll be able to get a second Xerneas Break. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to hold on to that, because what I'm going to do is save this Xerneas Break in case for some insane reason. Like, he's able to get a Kukui and a Lucario, like a Lucario GX. Like, if he's able to get a Kukui and a Lucario GX, then he'd potentially be able to knock out my Xerneas Break, and I don't want that yet. So I'm going to retreat into the baby Xerneas that's on the bench, hold off on evolving it, because like I said, if he gets like that perfect hand, even though I really doubt you're playing Lucario GX in a Garchomp deck, I mean, it's still just something that I have no reason to risk. And also it gets less damage off on my Xerneas Break, which will be an attacker. Keeps both Xerneas Break potentially as fresh as possible. So yeah, this one is active. He's going to go into Vulpix, and there are 2 Gabite down. What I can do, how do I want to do this? So I think what I want to do, so obviously I want to take out the Gabite. Because, I mean, that's, like, if your opponent can't get a Garchomp up, then they're never going to be able to beat you. And the fewer Gabite that I leave them with, the easier it will be for me to beat them. And he is going to go ahead and Beacon. What I think I'm going to do is just Lele for an N. That way, I mean, I still get a fresh hand, but it also keeps my opponent from having a couple, like a Gabite or Garchomp. I mean, if we see a Garchomp, we know he has a rare candy. He just grabs 2 Gabite. Still not something that I necessarily want to deal with, and I even get another energy off of that, so that's pretty solid. Let's go ahead and Lele for... I want the Enter the Sycamore. Actually, you know what? Let's grab the Guzma. That way I can start taking out the Gabites, because that's how I'm going to win this game, is just by taking out Gabites. And I already have... I'm about to have 6 energy on board. That's 120 damage. I will be able to just continually attach more and more as the game goes on. And this way I also get rid of that DCE, which would allow him to get up the Garchomp, and I actually have a DCE of my own that I can play next turn onto my Lele. So, yep, we get rid of the Gabite with the, Gibble, sorry. We get rid of the Gibble with the DCE. That means that we don't have to worry about Garchomp being powered up next turn, and that's another thing that this deck does a lot quicker than Garchomp. Garchomp straight up takes 2 turns in order to attack, just because aside from Breakpoint Garchomp, there's nothing that it can do to accelerate energy, so you have to manually attach those energies in order for you to be able to attack. Well, with this deck, you have Max Elixirs, and you have Geomancy, and then you can just keep attaching to stuff that's not the active so that you can build up damage while not obviously putting all of your eggs in one basket. So my opponent is going to Beacon again, but he only has one Gabite left. Like, his Gabite is on the bench. He doesn't have any other Gibbles. So, with the Guzma in hand, I'm just going to Guzma that thing right up and take it out. That way my opponent is 1,000% not going to be able to get a Garchomp up this coming turn, and then I can finally deal with the Alolan Vulpix. So, because I mean, like, Alolan Vulpix, like, it's annoying that, yeah, your opponent gets all the Pokemon they would want, and okay, we do see the Breakpoint Chomp. Well, unfortunately for my opponent, he is not going to be able to use it, because what I'm going to do is DCE up the Lele, Guzma up the Gabite, go into my other Xerneas Break, and while I could retreat out because this thing has 10 damage on it, I mean, it's just 10 damage. It's really not that huge of a deal. So just going to knock out the Gabite, and yeah, I mean, I kind of saw that coming. My opponent had absolutely nothing left on the board. I mean, all of his Gibbles, Gabites were gone. He just had Lucario, and then Lucario GX definitely can be a deck of its own, but Lucario, that's designed for a Garchomp deck that you don't have any Garchomp is just kind of dead weight, so my opponent really just didn't have much of anything. I already had 2 Gibbles knocked out. I would have been able to probably take out a third, or at least just take out enough Mons to where once he did get a Garchomp going, then I would have been able to just plow through it with my next Xerneas. So yeah, that was a pretty solid matchup. Showed exactly what this deck does, just outspeeds and hits hard. So yeah, I guess let's find another one. Alrighty, we have got another one against M. Hartson 12 with, quite frankly, I have no idea what he's running. I mean, there's Fairy, there's Electric. I mean, I'm confused. We do unfortunately lose the coin flip, so we will go second. But at the same time, I mean, that's not the end of the world, because I will be able to just Geomancy immediately, get a ton of energy on board, and then just be in a phenomenal position. So I'm okay with going second. I mean, I still prefer going first, but going second with this deck is actually not bad at all. And in fact, I think that a lot would prefer to go second with this deck, just because you're able to Geomancy immediately. But I mean, still, for me, it's one more opportunity to get an extra energy on board, get an extra Mon on board, an extra support of that type of thing. So we do see the Fairy-type Tapu Lele. Honestly, not overly worried about it. I'm curious to see what type of deck my opponent is running. Okay, we see the Tapu Koko. So it's Lele, Koko, and what else? So see the Energy Lotto. It's not going to be too big of a deal. Gets a DCE. That's honestly okay for now. He still has to retreat out the Lele in order to attack with Koko. Does just attach the DCE to the active Lele, which is, I mean, fine with me. That Lele really isn't going to do a whole lot of anything against me. So I'm not overly worried. We see the Po-Town come down, and he just, well, he gets rid of his DCE. So that's very nice for me. That's one DCE that I don't have to worry about. So what I'm going to do, go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Fairy and the Guzma. To grab a Lele, let's hope that I have a Brigette. Yes, I do. So I'm going to be able to get 2 Xerneas and an Oranguru down immediately, which is very nice for the deck. There's 2 Xerneas and 1 Oranguru, 7 energy, 4 DCEs. So basically, I have everything that I would want, and also I have my 3 Fairy Gardens in the deck. So I don't think anything of consequence is particularly prized this game, just because, I mean, I have, like, yeah, Xerneas is, but that's not a big deal because I'll still have 3 out. I whiffed the Max Elixir. I mean, that's to be expected, especially after my luck in, was it the first game or the last game? I don't remember. But yeah, let's just go ahead and Geomancy, get an energy onto both of these Xerneas. Xerneas, I still, honestly, like, I still don't know. Unfortunately, the Po-Town will kick in order to do some damage to my Xerneas when I am able to evolve it into a Xerneas Break, but I don't think that will be too huge of a deal, in all honesty. I should be able to still do fine. We see another Energy Lotto. Whiffs it, that is good for me. The less energy that my opponent has on board, the better. Because, I mean, while I'm not overly worried about my opponent's deck, I still think that, like, obviously, like, him not attacking is better than him attacking, like, regardless of what my opponent's deck is. Like, there's just no two ways about it. And so Okay, what I can do... Unfortunately, I'm going to have to let this damage ride on my Xerneas Break, and then I think I'm just going to Sycamore because, I mean, I have a handful of supporters, and 7 cards is better than... 7 cards is better than 6, so I'm just going to go with that. How do I want to do this? Let's get rid of the Rescue Stretcher in the N to grab, I think, another Xerneas Break. Now, let's go ahead and do that. Evolve this one on the bench. There's an energy in the discard pile. It's not worth going for yet. Let's just attach the energy to the Lele. And then I think after this turn I should be set to just start attacking with my Xerneas Break, because I will have enough energy on board, and then I can just manually attach, and that should be good enough. So there we go, able to get 2 energy out of the deck onto my 2 Xerneas Break, and now I'm ready to go because I have 7 energy on board. That's 140 damage. That is more than enough to take out anything. I mean, admittedly, the Necrozma still doesn't go down, but I do have a bunch of choice bands that I can potentially draw into to knock that thing out. And yeah, just in a great position, in all honesty. My opponent gets a Necrozma GX down. Fighting Fury belts up the Koko. Puts a counter energy onto his Tapu Koko on the bench. That's okay with me. I draw, unfortunately, into Nest Balls, which aren't going to do... What does it do? Move any number of damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. Wow. Okay, so I think I see what my opponent's deck is about. It's about just spreading around damage and then attacking with Lele and knocking a bunch of stuff out. So I just have to try to... I guess I just had to try to keep all the damage. I had to keep the spread damage to a minimum against my team. So what I'm going to do, evolve into the Xerneas Break, attach the energy, and then I think just Life Stream, knock out the Koko. Yeah, so that's... So Koko's down. I'll be getting a prize. I get another Xerneas. That is great for me. Sorry, I'm trying to not cough, but unfortunately that doesn't always work. But I do activate the counter energy, which is kind of unfortunate. And he does have the Rescue Stretcher, which will allow him to get that Tapu Koko right back. So really all that happened this past turn was I activated his counter energy and I took a prize. So he's going to Field Blower. I mean, yeah, it gets rid of my Fairy Garden, but I do have another Fairy Garden in hand. Never mind, no I don't. Because he is going to end me, but I mean, that's still the 5 cards. I have an Oranguru to potentially work my way out of any bad situations that I'm in. Fighting Fury Belt goes down onto this Koko, and another counter energy. Sorry, just completely blanked on the name for a second. Goes down onto his Koko on the bench, and this is going to be... Okay, so I just have to try to make sure that I don't get enough energy on the board. I think Xerneas Break should be... bulky enough to where I can take multiple, where I can like just let him do this for a while. Right now what I can do, I can take out the Lele, because if I take out the Lele then I just destroy his deck, but all it takes is just him playing down another Lele for me to just essentially have nothing accomplished from that turn. So what I think I'm going to do, just try to outrace him in the prizes, like just try to take as many prizes as possible, just outspeed him to where he doesn't have time to get sufficient damage on board to take a ton of prizes and win the game with Lele. So that's just kind of going to be my game plan at this point. I have enough energy to Oko anything that he might play down. Yeah, his counter energies are activated, but again, like I said, because my opponent did not play a counter energy onto the Lele, all it would have taken was him just putting another Lele down, and that would have essentially nullified what I had accomplished. So I just decided to take 2 prizes off of the Necrozma in order to damage that as much as possible. So what I'm going to do, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Nest Ball and the Mewtwo to grab a Lele. Honestly, just because, I mean, I really have no... I just kind of want to thin out my deck at this point. Let's DCE up the Oranguru, just spread out my energy a little bit more. So that, yeah, he can take out Lele, and that's taken out 4 energy, but at the same time, like, the more I spread out my energy, the less he's able to accomplish by moving all the damage counters onto one Pokemon. So let's just go ahead and knock out the Koko with Life Stream. Right now, I have... how much damage do I have on board? I have 40, 70, so I have, that's 160, that is 180, so I have 250 damage on board right now. 250 damage plus 120, so I have 370 damage on board. Yeah, I have 370 damage on board. That's enough to knock out Lele, and that's enough to knock out my Lele and a Xerneas Break. Yeah, it's enough to knock out a Lele and a Xerneas Break, but regardless of how he moves around the energy, I will still have a Xerneas Break in play that's going to be able to knock him out. Like, he can't knock out enough, he can't wipe enough energy off the board to win, because the most he can knock out in one turn is 6 energy off the board, and regardless of that, I still have 7 energy. I will, yeah, still have 7 energy. All it takes is me playing down 1 more energy, and because he's attacking, he's not going to be able to disrupt my hand, so I will be able to have the DCE in my hand for the next turn to be able to knock him out, and I think that's what he saw right there. He saw that, okay, he's not going to be able to knock out enough. Yes, he would be able to take the 6 energy off the board, like I said, but I still had plenty of energy. That's why I really like this deck, is because you don't have to just put a ton of energy on one mon. Like, you just keep the energy spread out. That way your opponent can't focus down one target, and once you have a ton of energy on board, your backup attackers just continually come in and hit for insane amounts of damage. So that was a very, very fun game against a really cool deck by my opponent. I mean, like, even though he didn't take a prize, like, he would have been able to take 3 right there, and that was still a really, really cool deck by my opponent. I might have to try that in the future, but either way, hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.